Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and what I wanted to do is just kind of have a thoughtful discussion on the gun debate. Okay, so bottom line, you have two sides. You have basically the pro-gun, anti-gun sentiment. And the bottom line, what is the state of things? Already there are laws in place that ban certain types of weapons, ammunition, and then there's even more laws at many places on the state level, including what's often seen as overly strict SAFE Act here in New York. Okay, and we'll break it all down. But let's just first explain sort of the two sides point of view. So those who are for gun control, basically their argument is it's not about your Second Amendment rights. You have the right to own a gun, but there are degrees of sort of the lethalness of a weapon. So heavily lethal weapons, meaning weapons that can shoot faster, can shoot longer, basically guns that can theoretically do more damage. Maybe there's not a need for them to be available to the average consumer. And not that will completely eliminate these guns altogether, but the idea is if you eliminate all sort of the barriers to buying them legally in the US, you make it harder to get access to those guns. And the idea is they're just trying to make it harder so that way less people buy those guns and there's less of them circulating. I don't think any of them realistically believe that a ban on guns is going to completely eliminate guns entirely. So that's their perspective. The idea is if you make it harder, and the idea is that should make it less likely that guns fall into the wrong hands. Okay? Now, the pro-gun perspective comes from a couple different angles. There's sort of the moral angle in the sense that sort of the pure libertarian moral angle is just that you have a right to your property and you have a right to freely exchange with others. So essentially to ban guns is to prevent people from freely exchanging and to interfere with people's property. Although, when it comes to a political debate, oftentimes moral arguments like that fall on deaf ears. But there are practical arguments in the sense of the efficacy of diminishing guns. In the same way, like the drug war. When you banned drugs, it didn't really make drugs go away. You just created a black market for them, and black markets tend to be more violent. So take a look what's happened with the drug war. By creating a black market for drugs, you have more violent around drugs, more organized crime around drugs. It's harder to kind of see the extent of the drug addiction issue. So it's hard to reach out and help people because oftentimes a lot of that's hidden because people are participating in black markets. It's hidden. It's not transparent. Well, if you could go buy, heroin from your local pharmacy, not that people should buy heroin, but the idea is that you can actually now measure the problem, which makes it easier to educate people and target where the problem is to help make people make better decisions, or at least make sure the right people know what help is available. So that's always the benefit. So this is actually probably the strongest reason why I generally am hesitant and very sort of anti-gun control, in the sense that if you make it harder for people to buy guns legally, they will probably buy them illegally. And the problem is it's much easier for cops to get a warrant for a legal gun dealer to be able to track where that gun is and prevent the next gun crime than to give a warrant to a legal or illegal black market gun dealer, because what are you getting a warrant for? And it would be much more difficult for them to track guns and thus prevent crimes. So there's also that preventative element. So the preventative element on both sides. One side thinks that by just making sure there's less guns in circulation, will mean there's less likeliness of the next crime. While the other side is saying that if you create that black market, you're not necessarily going to lower the circulation of guns, but you're going to make that circulation of guns less transparent and harder to track, and thus make everything more dangerous, kind of like what you see in the drug war. And people point to other places like Australia and Europe where they have gun laws. And again, there are genuine differences, far as Australia is like an island, so it's a lot harder to smuggle guns into Australia. So there are sort of real geographical differences, vice versa, where our borders are a little bit different, far as the feasibility of being able to smuggle weapons. So again, there's a feasibility issue as well. Yes, and then there's also just the definition of what you would want to control, in a sense. So I'm not a gun expert. I don't own guns. I don't shoot guns. I don't really do anything with the guns personally. I totally fight for people's rights to have that right to do whatever they want with guns, whatever they want with drugs, whatever they want with their TV, whatever they want, to let people live their lives. But words matter. So a lot of people are like, well, we need to now ban semi-assault rifles. Or the problem is, or not semi-assault, semi-automatic. As you can tell, I don't know anything about guns. But from what I understand, from looking at everyone's discussion back and forth, that saying semi-automatic is a very broad term that captures a lot of what people would, even the most ardent gun control person would think is reasonable guns that people should be able to own. So the problem is a lot of people just don't understand guns to be able to sit there and have a reasonable discussion on this. So it's kind of like me walking into a doctor's office and saying, you know, we should limit how you use morphine and this medicine and whatnot, because to me it just feels good, but you know better. So bottom line, it's I can understand both sides' perspective. It's a difficult issue because it is things like what happened in Las Vegas, what happened in Sandy Hook, were huge tragedies that break my heart right as we speak. Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean we can just avoid a thoughtful conversation to get to the right solutions. And the right solutions, what are they? I don't know. There's all sorts of different factors that contribute to these types of incidents. And, you know, people say, well, basically, if you ban guns, well, then people will just go stabs. And we've had situations where people have gone on mass stabbings. But then the counterpoint is, well, it's a lot harder to stab a whole lot of people. And which is a fair point. But at the end of the day, there's all the other points as well regarding what happens when you create that black market for guns. What happens to the police's ability to protect if they don't have a transparent market to track things in. So as a libertarian, again, I generally side on transparent markets, side on people being able to freely exchange. I think it's easier to see the extent of what problems society has that way, so that way we as a society can address them. But I am sympathetic to people who are concerned, who are heartbroken over these incidents and want to have this discussion. It's not unreasonable to want to have that discussion. It's not unreasonable to feel that way. When you see someone hurt, to want that thing that looks like caused the damage to go away. It's why I understand people who want drugs to be illegal, who want guns to be illegal, because they see people that they care about get hurt and they want to do something about it. I get that. And I'm not going to come here and say, hey, you know, I have all the answers and you got to listen to me. But let's all take a moment and have a thoughtful conversation. And I think we'll all be better off if we try to understand each other. We don't necessarily have to agree with each other. We all have to try to understand each other, and that we all do want less violence, that we all do want the world to be a better place, and we'll be able to move forward as a society. My name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. Have a great day and enjoy.